I always look at the numbers first because the numbers tell the story of what's going on and what's working, what's not working. I always start there.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 101. I cannot believe it. We're here. We're in the hundreds. Gosh, what a journey. What an amazing conversations and experts I've known along the way and been able to gratefully share with you guys. Today is no different. When I heard about Jenny Stillwell, I knew that I had to have her on the show because everything she does with her clients is aligned with what I endeavor to share with you guys on this show. The anti-hustle movement when you grow your business. So let me tell you a little bit about Jenny. So she's a strategy advisor and business mentor and provides strategic advice to help business owners upscale from, as she says, sort of low 7 figures and beyond into the 8 figures in a manageable and profitable way. She knows how to do this, you guys, because of her background. So she's had multiple CEO roles running other companies, including a publicly listed company. You're going to hear from her on, what that was like, as well as how is it different from running your own company, being the CEO of your own company. She's the author of an incredible book. I don't want to tell you what the title is because we're going to talk about it in the show, but it is a book you guys will need to have. Trust me on that one. It's so good. So stay tuned and listen for the title, because in the title alone is a perfect positioning tool for selling and marketing what you do. So that's coming up. She helps really clients get focused. And that's so key for us as entrepreneurs, isn't it? Because we just get scattered and we're like, I could do this and I could do this and I could do this. So she talks to us about focus and the power of that as well. So guys, she is a wealth of knowledge from growing other people's businesses, including one in the .com boom, to her own. And I'm really excited for you to meet Jenny. Are you guys ready? Shall we do this? Let's welcome Jenny on the show. Jenny, welcome to the show. I am very honored and very excited to have this conversation with you. How are you?
Thank you, Heather. I'm fabulous. I'm feeling very fabulous and I'm delighted to be here. I'm looking forward to it.
Where are you based, by the way?
Well, that's one of the reasons I'm feeling a bit more fabulous today. It's I'm in Melbourne, down on the Mornington Peninsula, and we had a late run at summer, so it's been really hot. And today, hence my layers, it's cold again, but that's Melbourne.
Absolutely. Yes, it is. And you're in a beautiful place in the world. So that's great. Good. Okay. So guys, as you know, my dear listeners, as we start this show, you will get to know Jenny as we go. You'll get to know her journey and how she helps clients and some of her incredible strategies. But I always like to start with 3 tangible tips. And I couldn't think of anyone, I guess, more perfect to give these tips based on your backstory, which we'll get to know. But if you can think of when you're growing a business, it can be yours or your clients. You go through these incredible moments of overwhelm and stress, which is normal and natural. But how do you get through them? What are 3 tips that you recommend to get through these moments?
Okay. The first one is focus. And it's all about when you're overwhelmed and you're trying to do a million things and feeling frustrated because you don't know what to do next. The big thing is focus. And when you look at your clients, it's which clients do you need to focus on? Who should you be looking after and really focusing on? It's not about everybody. It's about your ideal clients. Which product or service? And we can all get really creative and excited about new service offerings and what can we do? And we could do this and we could offer that. But you've just got to pull yourself back and go, if I'm feeling overwhelmed, what do I need to focus on? What's our core offering? And then the other aspect of focus would be what I call best fit marketing. So don't try and do everything. Don't get overwhelmed with thoughts of, oh my God, I haven't got all this under control. Just one thing. It might be Instagram, if that's appropriate for your business. It might be recording videos, if that's something that really works for you. It might be posting on LinkedIn, but just focus on your best fit marketing activity. And the second thing would be fees, because that can become very overwhelming when you're trying to chase clients and cash and money. So just really know your numbers and focus on your fees. And the third thing is relationships. That's what it all gets down to, doesn't it? So just stay in touch with people. Don't forget your relationships.
Really good advice. I want to dive deeper into one of those to start with, and that's the best fit marketing. Even some of the, seven-figure businesses that I speak to, they'll come to me because of my background in marketing and say, should I be doing this or this or this? Because it seems like everyone else is doing it. How would you even start with somebody to help them know where they should be marketing?
Wow, that's a great question. It's a big question. And I do get asked that question occasionally. And it gets back to, well, what are we trying to achieve? Like,
Mm,
it's the fundamentals of marketing. What's our core market? Who are we trying to reach? What's our value proposition? Where do we really add value? What lane should we be in? And what are the messages that we want to get out there? And how are we going to reach that target market? So if your market is primarily on LinkedIn, well, don't go off at a tangent on Facebook and Instagram. If you've got a
yeah.
creative business, then Instagram is your space. And it goes back to what I said before about just focus on the one thing to start with, but know who you're trying to reach and where they are and what's the best way to get your messages to those people. That's just the foundations. And then when it comes to the execution, well, that's, you know, someone like you can provide the expertise there. But again, it's just knowing your strategy and where to focus.
I just love that answer. So thank you, because that's something that, everyone's out there looking at everyone else's marketing and positioning and trying to do the comparisonitis and that, oh, I should just copy them. But yeah, no, so good that you said that. So relationships, want to talk about that because definitely in times of scale and growth, and even in just difficult times in life in general, you can sometimes forget that you can rely on people or that you have a community around you and you can go kind of inside and hang out there a little bit too long. Do you have any tips on maintaining relationships or growing relationships?
It's a good question. I think, first of all, you've just got to somehow remind yourself that you have relationships and not to forget them.
Yeah.
I've spoken to a few clients just in the last week who are talking about growth strategies for their business. And when we look back at all their clients and all the people who've referred business to them and the people they've got really great relationships with, and they're like, oh, I've been so busy trying to build the business, I've actually forgotten about the relationships. And they're
Yeah.
focused on things like the marketing and the doing and all of that. And it's like, well, just stop. You've got to get out there and just, who are the people who've referred you business? Who are the people that you have a great relationship with and you haven't seen them for a while? Who are the clients that need a bit of love that you've been neglecting? And if it's as simple as taking an hour to sit down and really have a look at that and write a list and say, well, okay, well, the next week I'm going to get in touch with these people, the next month. It's not that hard. It just takes some time to remember that business is about relationships and we can't neglect them.
Yeah, and thank you for sharing that because I know just with my business growth, the referral partners in my community, my partnerships are everything to me. And it's why I even started this podcast because I was going through a period of a bit of growth and a bit of stress. And I thought, do you know what? I'm going to actually hold myself accountable to handpick extraordinary people that I can have interviews with and expand my relationships as well. So however that looks, to hold you guys selves accountable to your relationship growth in your community. For me, it was a podcast and a few other things that I've scheduled into my calendar. But
Mm.
yeah, I'm on board with that so much and that advice. So thank you. All right, we're moving on. So you said you work with clients. So naturally now we have to talk about what you actually do. And you have a really incredible journey to be what you're doing now in sort of the coaching space. So talk to me about where you started, because I think I read that you've been a CEO as well. So you have quite the journey. So tell me a little bit more about your professional journey.
Okay. Uh, I'm just thinking, this makes me sound 1,000 years old, but I did a double degree, didn't use a computer while I did my double degree because, Nobody did back then.
Mm-mm.
Well, they did, but not. I didn't need to. And I ended up working for a software company as a sort of a trainee, graduate trainee. Got into the sales and marketing stream, and developed my career predominantly through that.
Yeah.
And ended up in a CEO role. Before then, I started a marketing consultancy
Okay.
because I didn't like my job and there weren't any other available opportunities. It was a recession. So I thought, well, what else do? You go and start a marketing consultancy without any background, never having run a business, no clients to start it with. Let's do that in a recession. So
I
I did
love it.
that. And I was thinking about it the other day, and I don't know whether it's just, you have confidence or you don't, you haven't made those mistakes, so you don't really know what you're walking into. And I'm
Mm.
glad I didn't because, I did it for 5 years and it was great. And I managed to build a really good client base. And then I wasn't quite finished with my corporate career and I ended up as a CEO of a publicly listed company.
Yeah.
And it was a leading company in the market and it was the .com boom. So it was a very crazy time, with the board trying to turn us into something we weren't and looking at
Uh-huh.
propositions from companies every day who wanted to be acquired by us and wanted us to invest in them. So I learned a huge amount during that time. And it was a great experience. And then after that, I started my own consultancy business, advising CEOs of
Yes.
sort of 7 and 8 figure companies. And then I guess over the course of many years doing that, at different times, I ended up stepping into one client's company as CEO because he'd had a health scare. And I did that for 12 months. That was a completely different business. It was a family business and it was in a different space. So again, it was good experience, new experience. And then in more recent times, I ended up stepping into a client's, well, 2 companies. And the second one needed some real help and a real turnaround. And I thought I'd be there for a few months. It was 5 years.
Oh my goodness.
I know. So I got them through the first year of COVID and I said, okay, that's it. I want to go back to doing my own thing. So I've had really unusual experience, I guess, having a corporate career, having CEO roles, running other people's companies, building my own practices. So I understand that perspective from both sides. So that's what I do now. I help my clients get through those, I guess, the challenges when they get to a certain stage in their growth and they've really got to become a more professionally structured and organised company to take it to the next level.
Yeah, and you have that incredible diverse background, both as a CEO for others and as a founder yourself. So it's quite, I would say it's quite rare based on just my conversations I've had in the past. So it's quite a gift to know what you're talking about and actually walk the talk in that space.
Mm,
Yeah.
yeah.
I'm curious between being a CEO for others' businesses and then your own practice. What's different around big .com growing company and growing your own business? What's different between the two, the main distinctions, if any?
Accountability.
Aha.
I think that's the first thing.
Yeah.
And you have to be diplomatic as well. You've got a board of directors and you've got shareholders and all sorts of stakeholders and investors. So you've got to be able to, certainly in that particular instance,
Yeah.
tread a very diplomatic line. And also it's a little bit like working in a fishbowl. Like everyone knows everything and you're accountable for everything, which is fine, but there's a big onus. When you're running someone else's company that's a private company, there's still that accountability. You have to make every
Yeah.
decision as if it were your own business, and you've got to
Yeah.
be respectful and diplomatic, but still be able to run the company as you think it needs to be run. And then building your own business, do whatever you want. But that's, I think, when some of us lose our focus because we get so
Absolutely.
excited about all the things we could be doing and we're not accountable to anyone. And I think unless you've had that more corporate, more structured experience, it can take a while to get to that point. So,
Yeah.
that's why a lot of clients say to me, "Oh, I've built the business to here, but I don't know. I haven't been in that space before." And that's fine. I mean, it's a whole skill set to be able to build a company from scratch up to low seven figures. So,
Yeah.
yeah, that would be the main difference, I think.
Yeah. Just curious. So you've written a book, The 7% Club, which I love the name of that. Talk to me a little bit about the title and what that means.
Well, it was really interesting. I was writing a book around strategy and challenges of growth, and I was doing some research. And I found these stats that said only 7% of companies grow beyond 2 million in turnover.
Mm,
And I just thought that doesn't seem right. I mean, it was professional statistics, so it
yeah.
wasn't some person just throwing it out there. And I thought, I wonder what it's like in the US and the UK. And it was comparable, and it was really amazing. And it seems to be I don't know, a pattern, a universal pattern. And I thought it was a really an interesting title because it is
Yeah.
surprising. But also, anyone who grows a business, you get to the high six figures, and we can see is that $1 million mark, and you just want to get there. And then, of course, once you've hit one, the next logical focus point is 2 million, and that's a really big challenge. And a lot of things can fall over and go pear shaped, and you can lose energy, lose focus, lose desire. And so that I just thought it was a really great topic for the book, and
Yeah.
yeah, to explore those challenges.
So do you help your clients now? Do you help them get past that 2 mil turnover? Is that the main outcome?
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
guess that's where all my other experience comes in,
Yeah.
helping them just get that focus, get that structure in place, get the team around them, get the strategic direction
Yeah.
right, which is what I love doing. So yeah, I just work with companies now in that space who are at that stage who want the help. It's fantastic. I love it.
I can tell. And yeah, it's yeah, great. And I just love that title. I just love, actual honest stats backed up with facts, and you have your formula to get people to get where they want to be. And I want to talk a little bit about a formula and how you work with your clients. So if you could think of a person, a business, a case study, happy for you to say the name, not say the name, up to you. But talk to us about the before and the after when they came to you, and what specifically did you do? What were the steps that you took with them?
Okay. And this is where you and I are in alignment. I always say better strategy, better business, better life. Because
Yes.
what's the point of having your own business if it's going to not produce a better life, and you're going to be stressed and you're going to be unwell and all those things? So
Yes.
when my clients are in that state of overwhelm or confusion, or even at a crossroads, I always look at the numbers first, because the numbers tell the story of what's going on and what's working, what's not working. I always start there. And heaps of my clients hate numbers. They hate that part of it. But I have to go there with them, because that gives us okay, well, what do we need to do now? So we look at that. I look at the structure of the business, I've got the team that they work with, what I call the capability gap between the owner of the company and the next level down. Is that
Okay.
too big a gap? And that's prevalent a lot of the time. So they might
Mm,
have someone in their business that was there with them from the beginning. That person might have come in to help out on an ad hoc basis, and they end up with a title like operations manager or office manager. And so that person's like, oh my God, how did I get here? I don't want to do this. And then the
yeah.
owner of the business thinks, well, I can't get rid of them. They've become my friend. They've been here for, X amount of years. And that's when there's often a huge gap. So that's when the owner puts on more people, but they're quite junior because junior people cost less. And then they say, well, I don't know why I'm putting all these people on. I'm still doing just as much work myself. So looking at things like that is it's a huge shift for the owner of the business and then for the business itself. So look at all those things about simplifying and putting in the structure, and then looking at the role of the owner of the company and getting them to
Yep.
step up from being the business owner to actually being the leader. That's a huge thing. And then once they get to that point and they have a team that's effectively running the business day to day, that's when they can be more strategic. So then we look at that part. So it's not necessarily sequential. We start where they need to start and move forward from there. But that's basically what we go through.
That's why you start with the numbers so you can see what's going on.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's it's really, yeah, it's really interesting, this whole capability gap that you're talking about, because it's something that I come up against as well, just in my own business. And it's a tricky one where you are looking at, like you're saying, juniors versus more senior roles. I want to talk a little bit about cash flow, because obviously that's a tricky thing to manage as you go through these different steps in your business. What do you do to help your clients improve their cash flow or even understand it better?
Yeah. Great question. um, I guess the first thing is to really understand. I have to understand the numbers. They really do. I have conversations about things like margin and profit, and it's clear to me that people don't really understand all of that. So once we look at that, then we also look at pricing and fees and terms. So if your clients aren't paying you for 3 months, we need to address that. If you're paying everything in 7 days, it's going to affect your cash flow. So that's just an education process. But particularly what you mentioned then, that's a really good question, because people will often say, how do we know when we can afford that next person, or who do we put on
Yes.
next, or how do I know if we're going to lose money, and there's that whole fear around that. And again, it's not a science. There's a bit of gut feeling and a bit of doing the numbers, but you need to be able to project out your revenue. So if you've got clients on a retainer basis, for example, obviously that's a given to a point. You might have some tender submissions out there that you expect might come in. So you can start to put some forecasting around your income. And then with that, you look at the expense of those people, maybe a junior person, maybe a more senior person, and say, okay, well, what are they going to cost us each month? And when is it likely that we can get that person on board in line with our sales projections, that it's not going to impact our bottom line? So it's a process. It's a real process of just hoping you get those light bulb moments where they go, oh, okay. Or you give them some tools, some ratios, and they go, oh, that's really helpful. So, yeah, they're the sorts of things that we look at. And the goal is obviously to get the better people on board, because that's going to free them up to do more of what they are really good at.
Mm. With your clients, do you find that most of them are already seven figure, trying to go multi seven figure, or are they high six figure? What would be your medium point?
Low seven figures, wanting to
Hmm.
grow.
Wanting to grow.
Yeah.
What's the main difference from somebody that's, say, turning over 1 or 2 million a year to somebody that is getting close to the 10 mil mark?
Oh, completely different. Completely different. The one that's close to the 10 mil mark, especially if they work with me,
Mm.
they do. They get to the point where that they are more structured. They have, their team is very structured. They all know what their roles are. They all have
Yeah.
accountability. They get on and do what they have to do. The CEO does not have to be involved in the day-to-day at all. Obviously the CEO or the leader has their role to play, but it's certainly not in the day-to-day. They run their numbers, they run dashboards. It's more of a well-oiled machine. They have regular strategic focus. Their processes are better. They've got risk management in place. They've got all their proper legal and commercial structures in place. That's what you get at that end of the scale, not at the low seven figures.
I almost wanted to paint the light at the end of the tunnel for people listening, because to me that sounds really wonderful. I mean, to really step into a leadership role and a strategy role, which I think a lot of business owners ultimately want. And you know more than me in that from your working with your clients. But would you say that that's the end game? Is like, yes, you can have time and freedom and literally be helicopter role to manage, lead, share your vision and inspire your team.
Absolutely. And I think going back to what you asked me before, which maybe I didn't answer, but that's the journey I take my clients on.
Yeah.
So they have, that's the transformation. They go from that being in the thick of it to having more time. And it's about freedom. It's about choice. It's about doing what you love. And it's not necessarily about retirement at all. Some of them might want to sell, but then they invariably go and create another business, knowing what they know from the first one. So it's about giving them that transformation toward freedom and choice and a better life. That's it.
So good. Where do you feel simplification fits into things when you're growing a business?
As in, when do you start to do it, or where in the company?
When and where? Yeah, if you were to simplify anything, systems, processes, offers, what you sell, is there a role for simplifying things? And when would that fit into your growth?
Absolutely, yes. I think there are some core processes that simplify. Once you've built a stable of clients, say, then that whole client onboarding and engagement process can be simplified but improved and made better. So you look at it from the client perspective, but then you also look at it from the back end, from inside the
Yeah.
business. What are we doing? And just simplify. Just make sure everyone knows what to do. The system is in place, the automation is in place, whatever it is, because that's consistent across every business, that customer engagement part. Recruiting people, that's a simple thing to simplify. And that has a distinct end-to-end process. And it varies from company to company, but when you're at that point that you are recruiting people, make that a process, and that simplifies it. So
Yeah.
I think whenever you're at the point of starting to do something more frequently, whether it's looking at financials or getting new clients or onboarding new team members or looking at the end-to-end process of what you deliver, whether you design websites or you provide legal advice, that's where simplification helps new people coming on board, because they get where they sit in the process. And once it's done, it needs to be reviewed, but it doesn't need to be micromanaged, and it can
Yeah.
improve cost efficiencies. So I'd say as early as you need to, and just look at the core areas. They'll make a big difference.
Yeah. I had a feeling you were going to say that. Thank you. So I'm curious now for you and your business and where you're headed. What is the name of your business that you have?
My company's Hanby Park Consulting. My business is Jenny Stillwell. That's my brand.
And where are you headed with that in the future? What are your plans to do next?
Well, I want to write more business books.
Yep.
I want to work with clients I love working with, and I like working one-on-one and giving my clients a bigger experience. So bringing my clients together, introducing them, some of my clients don't, well, a lot of them actually don't have access to peer groups. So I
Okay.
facilitate that for them, and we might do
Wow.
a strategic retreat, or we do a lunch, or, that
Yeah.
kind of thing. So I give them that connection that they would normally have.
Yeah.
And that's what I love doing. That's what I really love doing. And that's what I want to keep doing. And write some more books and just keep enjoying what I'm doing now. Yeah.
What's your next book? Do you know yet?
I do. I do. I haven't got a title, and I haven't mapped it out yet, but I know what it's going to be, and it's probably
Great.
going to help those maybe high six figures, low seven figures with that next level of revenue growth that everyone seems to be looking for, but of course, a structured and strategic way.
Brilliant. Love it. Can't wait to know when it comes out. That'll be amazing. um, and clients that you're taking on, who would be your ideal client if you wanted to have more clients that you love?
Those who want to get into the 7% club, so the low seven figures. I love
Yeah.
working with service businesses and B2B.
Yeah. Nice. Perfect. Now, where can people learn more about you, Jenny? Where do they go and find out all the amazing things that you're up to?
They can visit my website, jennystillwell.com.au, with one L in the middle and two on the end, or connect with me on LinkedIn. DM me, start a conversation, and pretty much between those two, it's all there. There's lots of resources on the website, the podcast, the blog, or just get in touch one-on-one.
And I wanted to point out two things. So the first thing, yes, definitely podcast. What's the name of your podcast?
The 7% Club.
There you go. Perfect, you guys. You have another new podcast you can go and listen to. Love that. And you are giving our listeners a strategy guide as well, which we'll put in the show notes. Talk to me about that. What's the strategy guide that you have?
It's, I guess it's not a cheat sheet, but it's a simple way to start approaching strategy, as in having that
Okay.
strategic focus I talked about in the beginning. So not doing the
Yes.
big all singing, all dancing thing, but just if you want to just start to get that focus, to get that strategic perspective, here are some different ways to approach it. Really simple, easy to follow.
Really smart. And just my history being an entrepreneur and being around loads of business owners in the past as well, we all get caught up in the shiny object syndrome all the time. So having some clear focus and some guidance in that area is really smart. So guys, you should take her up on that and go check out her guide. There's a link in our show notes for that. So definitely check that out. As we start to wrap up, are there any last words of advice or wisdom that you'd like to share for anyone right now that's growing their business and they're feeling a little lost, a little scared, a little overwhelmed on what to do next?
If you want some advice that's not going to cost you a lot of money, you can always go and read my book,
Yeah,
or also on the website. I recorded the book as a series of podcast episodes. All you have to do is
nice.
sign up for that, and you can download that. And I think the important thing is to know that people think, we all think we're making mistakes, or we're not very good at what we're doing, or am I really cut out for this, or I'm losing the passion for my business. We all feel like that at some point, and it's just a matter of reconnecting with what really lights you up, what you love doing, that thing in your business you love doing, and try and focus on that as your end game. And if you focus on that, you'll get through. Because we've all been through it, haven't we? We've all been through it.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah. Well, thank you. Thank you so much for your advice and your stories and what you have offered on this episode. Been very appreciative of having you here and sharing your time with us. So thanks again, Jenny.
fantastic. Thank you so much, Heather. It's been really great talking to you.
Thank you.